But go ahead. What was the question?
My question was, when you see that you're consistently going into one classroom, do you try to then, I don't want to say educate, but help the teacher come up with better strategies to handle
Yeah,
the situation? And were they even open to you giving them any sort of feedback?
yeah, it's a good question. So when I was a dean, like when I was a dean, I got there a little bit late. I started off in November, so the school year had already started. And so all I was doing was just trying to fill out the situation, not rock the boat so much. Just let me just figure out, here are the teachers, here are the students, here are the students with difficult behavior, here are the teachers that need the most help. How could I help them?
Hmm.
And I found that because they didn't know me, because I came in November, because I was an outsider, I got a lot of pushback. Like, nah, this guy, push back, push back. And so I was like, okay, cool, cool. I'll just come and help out whenever you need me. You call me, I'm there. You call me, I'm there. Every time you call me, I'm not gonna hesitate. I'm gonna walk right up there because I need to build that relationship. Because if they call me and I don't ever show up, they're like, oh, forget this guy, right? So that's one of the ways I built relationship with these teachers. And then I noticed that, like, it's hard to tell somebody that their classroom management isn't working. That's a difficult conversation to have, especially if you just started, right? Like, hey, your classroom management is not working, and here's how I think you should run your classroom. Teachers don't take that well. And so I found that, like, if I ever did that, I would get a lot of pushback. So I just stepped back. I was all right, okay, that's fine. Send me your kids and I'll deal with that behavior. Um,
Yeah.
so, and now, I was a dean, now I'm an administrator. When I became an administrator, the first year I had straight imposter syndrome. Like, oh, you're not a really administrator. What are you doing? You're an imposter. And so that first year I was just trying to figure things out. Now, third year, if I don't know if I'm gonna be administrator next year, but if I'm an administrator next year, I know that my first thing is to help the teachers establish routines and procedures out the gate. Like, let's map out your
Yeah.
day. How are your kids walking into your classroom? What are they going to do the first things they step into your room? How are they going to enter and exit your classroom? Do they have to raise their hand are you doing hand signals? What are you doing for them to move around in the classroom? Let's figure that out. And so, yeah. And so I'm thinking about your class. You're a PE teacher, right? You've been a PE teacher for how long?
Uh, I want to say 16, 17 years now.
Yeah, and that's a K through 5 in New York. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm New
You're
York City, K to
Mhm.
5, so kids as young as 4 to 5 years old to as old as 10, 11.
Yeah.
I bounced around the different buildings, but I've been in my current school here in Queens, New York for now almost 10 years, which has been
Okay.
amazing.
That's awesome. Can you
Mhm.
tell me about a little about the population of the students you deal with?
Yeah, we have, I see my students probably once or twice a week. We have about 1,000 kids.
Okay.
Um, and as far as population, like what
So you're
specific?
dealing, so you have a percentage of
Oh,
Latinos,
I
African
see. Yeah, yeah. That
American,
was
like
okay. Yeah. I have about, I would say, 80% or so that are Asian, and then I
okay,
have some Russian kids, and
okay,
we have a small percentage of Latinos and blacks. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And so um students, you come in, what's a routine? What's your routine like? Because in LA, I'm from, Los Angeles, and I work for Los Angeles Unified School District. We don't have a PE teacher for elementary school. It's the classroom teacher teaching physical education. So when I was a fifth grade teacher, I did the physical fitness test with my students. So I was the one that took them outside. We practiced running the mile. We practiced push-ups. We practiced the sit and reach. We practiced all those things. And in my district, the teacher teaches physical education. So in your district, is it different?
Yeah, I mean, just to backtrack, I wonder why that is. Why is it that there were no phys ed teachers in your location? Is it a budget reason?
For
Is it just
That's a good question. Middle schools have physical education teachers. High schools have them, but elementary school with LAUSD, we don't have a physical education teacher. We don't, and I would say it's a budget thing. I would say it's a budget
Yeah,
thing, but I don't
interesting.
have the real answer. Yeah, but yeah, but you are the
Yeah,
physical education
we
teacher.
have a phys ed teacher. When I started out about 9, 10 years ago in the school that I'm working out currently, you really didn't have to be certified. You know, anyone in the building could teach PE, making
Well,
getting a job very, very difficult. And if,
yeah,
I was very lucky that the principal had about 5 or 6 teachers in house that wanted the position. And instead
yeah,
of like ruffling feathers, they decided to go out with someone on the outside. And then I was very lucky to get in there. And then
yeah.
since then, years later, they started making it mandatory that you had to be phys ed certified. And
Mm.
now that I have this position, I can't lose it. And now I have a coworker now who's amazing, and I've been with him for about a year now. So it's really been great.
Is that the guy in your videos? Is that the other guy in your videos?
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
my coworkers. Sometimes it's my student teachers.
Okay.
I always try to tell them like you gotta be willing to put yourself out there on the internet because
Yeah.
you have no
When did
experience, you
Yeah,
know. So
when when did you start your social media journey with physical education? Because that's how like I said, I stumbled upon. I was scrolling TikTok and I saw you, and you had this like this Andy like you go like like you do something like that. Like I forget the catchphrase you're like try it out
give
or
it a
something
try.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it a try. And I was like,
Um,
oh, that's good. That's good. And so when did you start your social media
I
journey?
uh, I kind of was on and off years ago before I worked in this current building. I was working
Yeah,
as an adaptive phys ed teacher, working with kids that were suffering from autism. And I didn't have a gymnasium. I was in the classroom, and we only had a computer screen, and we had little areas to work. And anytime I went on YouTube and I put some kind of dance video or any kind of movement, I was amazed on how my students were actively involved in the lesson. They just were such
yeah,
visual learners. And it gave me the ability to have them watch while I was able to kind of have one-on-one moments with each child, which I wasn't able to do because if I'm leading an instruction, I can't really, when you have autism, sometimes there's such visual learners at the moment you go to help another child, they almost mimic me helping someone and they don't
yeah.
go back to what they were doing.
Mm,
So I learned that video was great for them. So I started making basic videos of myself in front of the camera, like transferring a beanbag from one hand to the other, throwing it, trying to catch it, balancing it on different body parts. And then I
yeah,
would play it in front of my students and they would follow me. And as they're following
yeah,
me, I was able to assist myself teaching.
yeah.
And
That's
so that's
that's
kind of what
pretty
got
good.
me hooked. That's what got me hooked there. And then when
Yeah,
I got into my new school, I was in my gymnasium, so I kind of just did my thing. But I was losing my gym space to bake sales, elections, book sales, you name it. Every other day, I
mhm,
was kind of kicked out of the gymnasium. And on rainy days, where am I
yeah,
going? I'm going into the classroom. So the first time I was stuck in the classroom, I thought to myself, okay, I have 32 students in here. I do have a smart board. What can I do here? And sure enough, I went back on the internet. I found a teacher that was doing a dance warm up, and I played it for my students, and they started dancing to it
yeah,
in place. And I just got inspired. I'm like, I can do that. And I think for
yeah,
any teachers that want to enter the social media, they have to have that moment where they're like, I think I can do that. That's when
yeah,
you're ready. So I thought I can do it. And I made my first dance video, and I posted it. And the next time I was in the classroom, I played it. And the smiles on their faces and how excited they were to see me, even the teacher, it was inspiring. And then from
yeah,
there, I just once a month I made dance videos. And then the pandemic hit,
yeah,
and I'm like, I have to share these dance videos with other teachers that I can hope that can use it. And I remember
mhm.
sharing the videos, and I would wake up the next day, and I'm like, how did that video go from 1,000 to 13,000 views overnight? Like, what's going
Yeah,
on here? You know?
yeah,
And so that's kind of how it really started. And then I was very blessed that at the time of this terrible pandemic, I had a basement space that we were in the process of getting new furniture. So it was an empty space in my basement. So I started
Mm-hmm.
making at home PE workouts and at home PE challenges using a sock ball, a paper ball, anything that you can think of. And I started thinking about my curriculum, what I do in class, how could I modify it at home? And I would make a video once a week. And then I started seeing teachers from around the country using my videos and saying,
That's
Tom,
awesome.
this is amazing. Keep it going, keep it going. I almost felt like an obligation to continue to do this, but I knew, you're making an impact, and so it's so motivating. So I went from like making one at-home video to two or three a week, thinking
Ooh.
that this pandemic will end in four to
Yeah.
6 weeks. I didn't realize that this was going to be a 2 year thing. So I ended up
Yeah.
making close to 70 at-home videos.
Wow.
And not only did I inspire so many teachers, I cannot tell you what it was like to watch my own personal growth throughout the videos, and how comfortable I got in front of the camera, how quick
Yeah.
I was able to speak to the camera without stuttering anymore. It just leveled my game to a teaching level that's so much fun, and it allows me the freedom to make videos without feeling this burden or stress because I have so many other things going on. You know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was in a kindergarten class the other day doing observation, and this one teacher plays this video, and it's just a man and like a green screen, and he's dancing. He's dancing, and all the kids are loving it. Everybody's loving it. They're all dancing with him, whatever. And I look at the views, and it's in the millions. And I'm like, I could do this. I
You're
could make a
ready.
dance video.
You're
I could make
ready.
this dance video right here. And I was like, I told the teacher, I was like, hey, do you guys do this every day? She's like, every day we do like 5 minutes of exercise in the classroom, and this is we use a. And she showed me a variety of different videos, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't realize how teachers utilize these videos and how popular they are with the kids. They love them. They love them, and I'm sure that your videos make a huge impact.
It's indescribable.
Yeah,
When I started making these videos, I initially thought teachers were going to see what I was doing and mimic my moves for their own class. I never thought they'd just play me. That's for
yeah,
the other schools. But as far as my school, when I started making those videos and then sharing it with my classroom teachers, I don't know how to describe it. To walk through the hallways of your school and to hear music and then to look through the door of one of the classrooms and to see your shiny head
yeah.
on the screen. And then you look over and you see all the kids dancing, and even the teachers are getting into it.
Hmm.
Working in New York City, I only see my students once a week, two times if I'm lucky. But because of these brain breaks and my teachers' willingness to share these videos, they're now seeing my face every single day. And then I'm
Wow.
finding from parents, they call me up. Oh, coach, my daughter's been watching your videos at home. I'm like, exercising with them? Well, yeah, sometimes she'll exercise with them, but sometimes she'll just keep watching you and just smiling and laughing.
Yeah,
Now my kids are going from seeing me every day in school to now seeing me every single day.
yeah,
So that goes from liking me to loving me to now wanting to be just like me. And that's called
yeah,
power. Power. And now as a teacher,
yeah.
what can you do with that power, right? They adore you.
That
Now you can
that's a
use
good
that power
question.
to mold them. That's what I love about elementary kids. You could really mold them into the character, education, or the type of kids you really want them to be. And so I take a lot of pride in that. And it's just an amazing feeling to see them light up when they see me, and then what I can do with it in the classroom. It's
Yeah.
just
So
unbelievable.
let's talk about that influence, right? Let's talk about the influence that you were just mentioning right now. Um, like I'm gonna say in general, PE teachers they have a pretty good influence on students, right? They're the coach. Kids look up to them. They respect them because that's the coach. And they might be the basketball coach or the football coach, but that's the coach, and we respect them because you have this ridiculous influence now. Because kids are watching you all the time, pretty much. Does it make classroom, let's say, classroom management way easier for you?
So The answer is yes. I don't know how else, I've been, you know, I, if, let's just put it this way, there's been a time where I was in the classroom, teaching in the classroom, and I go, listen, you're having trouble listening. And that's the case. I may have to tell you teachers to use a different brain break than myself. I'm telling you right now, you have to
Hmm.
start listening. But in reality, the reason why, and even beyond videos, the reason why I've always had strong classroom management skills in my class is because I take a ton of pride in my own personal development. And I worked on it for so many years that I was able
Yeah.
to master it. And, um, you know, there's a lot of reasons that happens. Number one is, and if you were my dean and you came in, regardless if you've been doing it for 20 years or it was day one, any feedback that you would give me, I would take it only professionally and I would
That's
never
good.
take it personally. And I would listen to it, I would digest it, and I would try it out. And if it works for
Yeah.
me, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And you could be I work in the gymnasium. It could be someone from the cafeteria staff or the security guard notices something. I'm all ears. And the feedback that they're willing to give me only gets me better. And as you get better and
Good.
better and better, you get to a level of teaching where it just becomes fun and classroom management's a breeze and you can kind of teach anything that you want at any point
Yeah.
that you want. And it's not easy. A lot of teachers expect, at all levels, you would think we're in a field where you're allowed to get criticized, but
Hmm.
they tend to take things personally, and
Yeah.
it hinders their personal growth.
Hmm.
And I went into this field to be a learner as well. I'm not going to disregard feedback that's coming from me, positive or negative. I'm
Yeah.
just going to learn and grow from it.
That's good. And the feedback that you receive, like if you were to give, you said classroom management is a breeze for you now. How big do relationships play in that? Building positive relationship with students.
It's very, very important. But when you're new, like you're just trying to figure things out, like right,
Yeah.
you're just trying to get through your lesson. Trying to build a great rapport with the kids when you're still new is very, very challenging. And
Hmm.
I think the key, if you want to master an area of teaching, it doesn't stop when the bell rings, right? So if I want to to be a better teacher, if I know building relationships with kids is so important, then I can't be doing that within the 45 minutes or 90 minutes I see them a week. It's just not doable, particularly when I'm new or when I'm trying to get through a lesson. I'll have those moments with the child, but those moments have to happen outside of school. So if I have a student that comes into my class who's I can just see he's having a bad day, I could try to entertain it for a moment. But if the child isn't giving me what he or she needs to give me to get through the lesson, I'm going to have them sit down, and they may
Hmm.
not be an active learner, but they'll watch. This thing I always do when a kid comes in upset, I'll say, "Hey, you want to be part of class?" "No, I'm upset." I'm like, "Okay, go take a moment, sit down," and then
Yeah.
I'll get the class going, and then as the class is doing their own independent work, I'll go over to that child and I'll say, "Hey, do you want to talk about it? What's going on?" "I don't really want to talk about it. I'm just upset." I'm like, "Okay, can you at least watch what we're doing?" "Okay." So then they'll just watch, and
Yeah.
so they're not actively involved, but they're involved in the lesson that they're watching. Now, this is where the homework comes in because when the class is over, if you have that mindset of, oh, the kid had a bad day, I'll wait until next week. Well, the kid's gonna have another bad day. It's like nip it by just simply saying, okay, I got to meet with this child at one point before class starts up again next week. And
Yeah.
so I would go outside at recess, maybe before school, after school. Maybe I'd see the child in the hallway, and I'll just have a quick discussion about my class. I'll say, "Hey, you didn't participate, but what do you think? Did you like anything that we were doing? You know." And if I'm still not getting what I'd like to hear, then it goes on to, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you're interested in, and then I try to bring that into my class. So I had a child. I think she was in second grade, had no interest in playing soccer. It just wasn't her thing. Even though I tried to tell her, "You're
Yeah.
new, you got to give it a try."
Yeah.
She said, "I'm just not into it." I'm like, "Well, what are you into?" She's like, well, I love watching SpongeBob with my sister at home. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. And then she
Yeah.
didn't really give me a whole lot more because, she's in first grade. So I went home thinking, "Good, she likes SpongeBob. We're learning soccer. Let me think here. Got it. I'm going to buy some SpongeBob stickers. And I'm going to place it on her soccer ball. And then for the warm up, I think I'm going to put SpongeBob SquarePants theme song on and somehow
Yeah.
get her involved there. And sure enough, in the beginning of the class, she was sitting on the bench, didn't want to play soccer. I put that music on. She got excited. She slowly started to kind of be interested in what we were doing. We didn't start with soccer right away. We were just dancing to the music. She kind of
Yeah.
joined in. And I said, this is great. Then, as the warm up ended, she was heading back to the bench. She said, no, no, we're about to start soccer. Look what I have for you. And she saw the ball with the SpongeBob stickers and she just lit up. And it
Yeah.
didn't matter. It didn't matter if she was playing soccer, basketball, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then you have her. And I've had her.
Hmm.
So you figure out what it takes. And that's at first grade. Now she participates. I think she's in fifth grade now. She does everything.
Yeah.
Not an issue. And you gotta get it right then and there. If you wait until next week, oh, maybe it just had a bad day, or maybe I don't have time for that. You gotta like hit it head on. You can't have constant classes where kids are just unfocused. I would imagine you've had that at times where kids would come in and
Yeah.
you have to go
Yeah,
out.
so like in my current position, so I'm assistant principal right now. So in my current position, it's a little different. So I'm in the back, and I usually kids get sent my way because of misbehavior. So if you get sent to me, it's because you misbehaved in the class, and so they send them my way. But just like you were saying earlier, I'm doing the proactive work. I'm doing the work, ahead of time so that they don't get sent to my office. So I'm out there on the yard. I'm playing kickball. I'm playing basketball. I'm forming a football team, picking teams. I'm the quarterback for both teams. At lunchtime, I'm walking around lunch table talking to as many kids as possible. Like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? What's the food today? Oh, you guys got pizza? You want another one? Let me go ask somebody if they have another pizza. So I go walk over there, get a pizza. Here you go, man. You want another pizza? You need a chocolate milk? Let me see if somebody else has a chocolate milk they don't want. I'll give it to you. And so I'm just working it. In the morning, good morning. How are you? How are things going? You guys good? All right. So I'm always checking in so that I have a good relationship with them, so that when they get sent to my office, we can have an open conversation about their behavior. They're comfortable speaking to me already. They're like, all right, Mr. Vergara, I did mess up. This is what I did. This is what I said. And I know I was wrong. And, and we talk about like, how are you going to repair that harm? What are you going to do to fix the situation in the classroom? They're good with me. And that's good. But as an administrator, you want them to be good with the teacher.
Yeah,
I don't want them to be good with me. Like I I don't want all the power. I don't want everything to be run through me and everybody listens to me, but then when I'm gone, well then they just do whatever they want. I want the teachers to have the power. I don't want the power. And the problem I feel is that like if they give me the power, if they send the kids to me and they're always sending them to me, then I start to become the person that has all the power, and they only listen when I'm around. And when I'm gone, I'm like, well, Mr. Vergara's not here. I'm just gonna go ahead and do whatever I want. So my goal is to give the teachers the power, and I haven't mastered that yet. I haven't,
yeah,
like you were saying, it's a difficult dance. Like to tell somebody, hey, like your classroom management, that's a difficult dance to do. And I'm a rookie administrator. This is my third year as an administrator. I get it as a classroom teacher, 18 years classroom teacher. I could do it, but to tell adults like, hey, look at what's going on. That's the hard part, and I've been trying to figure that out. I'll get people who know me. Like, there's people that know that I have social media at work, and out of the classroom people, and they'll say something like, "Well, Miss Vergara, like, what are you gonna do? Look at your videos say this. So how are you gonna deal with that situation?" And I laugh about that. Um, my videos are more geared to helping teachers. Like, I'm fine. I could deal with that. I just want to help the teachers.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's a tricky dance.
It is tricky. I don't know if like doing some kind of workshop. with the staff, just showing
Yeah.
them your techniques that have worked for you, and to see if you can inspire them. But
Uh,
it is tricky. You know, what worked for me as far as building the respect from the teachers is that I was able to teach in the classroom. And when I
yeah.
was teaching in the classroom, I hoped that the classroom teacher would stick around and do their work in the class. And most of them did. And that was my opportunity to advocate for how I teach and what I do. Because, when you're teaching phys ed, 7, 8 class, 6 to 7 classes a day, you're kind of stuck in the gymnasium the whole time. And the teachers are
Hmm.
just dropping the kids off and moving on. And they don't really know much about your program, about what you do. They only know from their previous experiences. And I can tell you, as a phys ed teacher,
Yeah.
my elementary experience growing up was kind of a joke. And so
Hmm.
for them, it's probably the same way. So that's what they are expecting. And so when I'm able to go in the classroom, I'm able to teach at a high level, and for them to see it, it's amazing how they speak to me and talk to me after the fact, and
Yeah.
I sense the respect, and that's how I was able to build such a good rapport with my staff. And
That's good.
they come early. They the class, there's no more 5-10 minutes late. Sorry, coach, we got caught up or something. No, it's like they're always there on time and they leave on time. And it's a different sort of respect. And I think it's
Yeah.
something that as a phys ed teacher, you're going to have to earn, because there's a lot of bad stereotypes out there. And there's a lot of teachers that just didn't have a good experience, and they just
Hmm.
assume every teacher kind of teaches the same. And so I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of changing that.
That's good, and I think you are. I think you are because you always, like I said, when I watch your videos, and it's always tips for PE teachers, tips for PE teachers. Like that's great stuff. When I watch your videos, and your games are different from all other games I've seen. Like you have all these unique games, and you use pool noodles and bean bags and hula hoops and like all kinds of different things and different types of games. That's I could tell that you're really putting in work. Like you're really out there learning and thinking and trying new things, and you're out there with your camera, and you're really pushing the envelope for a PE teacher. Like you really are pushing the envelope, and that's what caught my attention. Your
No, I
unique
really,
games.
I really appreciate that. I definitely, what I love most about those videos I make is how I introduce the content, and how quickly I explain how to do the activity, so that future teachers can see that you can explain a game quickly and clearly and effectively, that you don't have to spend a lot of time, 2 to 3 minutes, to explain something. As long as you
Yeah.
practice it, you can roll it out quickly. And these videos are really geared towards future professionals, or first, second, third year teachers. See, again, as you're a teacher, you work in your own school. A lot of phys ed teachers work by themselves, so you just have this delusion that everyone teaches at the same level. And I was very, very blessed to have been mentored extremely well by someone who paid attention to details, who was very dedicated and passionate. And that's
Yeah.
not always the case for these young people going in. They're
That's
not
right.
getting mentored correctly, and they're going into a school having really very little skill, and then it's going to go by what they've learned,
Hmm.
and they don't get a ton of support from the administrators, because we're phys ed and
Hmm.
they're caught up doing other things. You're not going to have most coworkers are caught up in their own lives, so they're not going to give you feedback. So now you haven't been mentored well. You have no
Right.
experience. You're getting thrown out there, and then that's where, like, kids, teachers kind of, I don't want to say burn out, but teachers get really discouraged. And the first thing teachers do when they get discouraged is the blame game. Oh, this lesson
Hmm.
didn't go well because the students came back from recess. The students had came back from a field trip. Oh, the teacher it's a substitute. Oh, it's this, it's that. It's like, no, it's your inability to adapt the lesson to meet the needs of those kids at that particular moment. It is you. And the
Yeah.
moment you start blaming other people, you lost. And so what I try to do is I try to create these videos to help these young people, hopefully mentor them. If they see a video they like, hopefully they start following me more, because as much as I enjoy showing those random tag games and fun activities, I always try to throw in some, this is the best classroom management tip. This is the best
Yeah.
time management tip. This is what you need to focus when you're working with kids and you're having trouble with classroom management. It's so easy to point out the kids who are doing the wrong thing. All they want is attention, and I think you know as well as
Hmm.
I do that negative
Hmm.
attention. It's so easy to get, right? Let
Oh
me
yeah.
spin on the floor. Everyone's going to look at me. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And what do teachers do? Hey, stop spinning. Hey, stop spinning. Meanwhile, the
Hmm.
person right next to them has been sitting down patiently waiting. That's the kid that
Hmm.
deserves to get highlighted.
Hmm.
So when a kid is misbehaving, I pay them zero attention. And what I try to
Okay.
do is I try to find that one child that is within that area who's doing the right thing, and I highlight them. I might give them a look, but I'm highlighting them. And I always tell my students, doing the right thing, being well behaved, being focused is how you get my attention in this class. And if you consistently do that every single class, which is difficult because focusing on the good takes work,
That's right.
boy, does it pay off if you
It
consistently
does.
do it. Yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then
Focus.
they
Go
want
ahead.
to they want to. So I'm just saying that kids copy each other. So why not force them to copy the kids who are doing the right thing, right?
Yeah, and you gained all this knowledge from your mentor teacher from where'd you get this knowledge from? Because this is some good stuff. You were talking about how like you take everybody's advice. You take everybody's advice from the janitor to the whatever teacher, assistant principal, whomever. You take that advice. Is that how you gain your classroom management skills? What's going on, or like
I
what was it?
early on in my career, I knew I had this gift where when I'm around children, they just gravitate towards me. If I wanted to make them
Hmm.
laugh, they can laugh. If I wanted to be, if I wanted them to do something, they copy me. And so I had that unique talent um,
Yeah,
initially going into it. And I feel like that's very, very important. I hope that every teacher goes into this profession for the kids. Let's face it, this is a kid's business.
that's right.
If you don't have the tolerance to be around the types of kids that you're looking to teach, like I knew it was going to be elementary kids, but if I didn't feel comfortable, if I didn't have the patience for little kids, then what are you doing, right? So
Yeah,
I knew I had the patience, I knew I had the talent to get through the learning curve of learning how to teach, and getting feedback from other people helped. But what really helped me was just my confidence. Being putting myself out there on social media and helping so many teachers and getting those DMs of saying how I inspired them to even get into the profession just made me feel even more confident. It made me feel like I had a purpose to hopefully change the stereotype that PE teachers have.
yeah,
I take a lot of pride in that. And when I started going on to social media and being on Twitter X and Instagram, I wasn't alone. There are hundreds of dedicated and passionate PE teachers around the country. So
yeah,
people always say, Tom, how are you able to make videos every other day or every 3 days? It's because I get inspired by other teachers who come up with similar activities. I'm
yeah,
not creating these games. I'm sharing what they've done and I'm just showing them how to play it.
yeah,
So, and then, it's who you surround yourself. I always tell my students, it's who you surround yourself with. Like my passion is to be the best teacher I can be. So I have to be around the best teachers around the country.
right.
And I
That's
can't do
right.
that living in Queens, but social media
That's
will allow
right.
you that opportunity, you know,
Yeah.
which I think is so, so important. And I think I always tell my kids and I always tell my students this, and this really hits home with them, is I'm very blessed to have a talent at teaching. What do I do with that talent? I can use that talent to brag about how great I am. I can use that talent to tease the ones that don't have that talent, or I can use that talent to help others develop and get better. Because
Yeah.
if you get them to get better, you go from good to great. You,
Yeah.
you really do because you're inspiring them. And that's so important. So listen, you're a good reader. You read at a level K and your buddy reads at a level 10. If you're teasing them, you're a fool.
Hmm.
Get them to the level you're at. It's not a competition, right? You want to
Yeah.
learn how to be popular? Help out kids. You help a kid, that kid's going to go home and tell their parents you help them. The kids, hey, how'd you learn to jump rope? Oh, my friend Michael. Who's this Michael? That's how you become popular. You don't become popular because you make fun of others.
Yeah.
You might be popular in middle school, right, temporarily, but if you continue to tease and make fun of others, that's not going to last. You're going to
Hmm.
eventually lose those friends, and you're going to be one lonely soul as you get older, as opposed to why don't you develop these good habits where you're helping other kids? And maybe that ain't cool right away, but you're going to develop some really good connections with kids, and then
Yeah.
they'll build upon that, and then you're going to have lifelong friends that
Yeah.
care about you because you clearly care about them.
Yeah. And these are the lessons you're teaching in physical education, right?
Yes, yes.
Right. So
Listen,
you could teach physical education and still teach life lessons while teaching physical education, correct?
teaching them the skills. I'm sorry, you can go into the gymnasium and teach a kid how to jump rope. There are
Hmm.
so many resources out there now. You can just grab it off the internet, right?
Yeah.
I'm replaceable. In
Yeah.
my opinion, what keeps me in the building, what keeps PE teachers irreplaceable, is that social emotional piece. We are very blessed to
Right.
have the time in class to go over that. Right? If we're
Hmm.
playing basketball and a kid is dribbling a ball, elbows a kid to the floor and hits a layup and is going back and celebrating and paying no attention to the poor kid that's on the floor, I'm blowing my whistle. I'm stopping the entire class and we're going to have a discussion about empathy. You're more
Yep.
concerned about your point than you are about your own classmate. Like, what are
Yep.
we doing? Where I find one in the classroom teachers, I don't know if it's the rigor or they just have so much going on, but with the academics, they sometimes shy away from that as social emotional piece because they have so much other stuff they have to get to. So if they see a kid doing the wrong thing, it's like, come on already. We got to focus. Let's go back to work, back to work. Like they don't. I don't know if they don't want to make the time or they don't have the time because of all that they're doing,
Yeah.
that they're not getting that opportunity. And you know that it's not happening at recess either. These kids are just acting like clowns at recess. So where are they going to learn about being someone of good character or someone who makes
Yeah.
good decisions?
Yeah. So
Physical education.
physical education. When I was a classroom teacher, I made sure it happened in the classroom. The way you're explaining how, the layup and let's talk about empathy, I would do it in my classroom. Like for instance, if I was doing a project and I was like, okay, today we're doing this one math problem. We're doing this one math problem and we're gonna work in groups. And we're really focusing, yeah, we're doing this math problem, but we're really focused on teamwork and communication. Right. So I'm looking to see who could work together, teamwork, and if you could communicate with your partner. Now you're going to be with people you don't know, people you may not like, and that's life. Because you're in life, you might be paired up with people you don't know and you don't like, but can you work with them? Can you work with this problem, communicate appropriately with them, and work together as a team? Because that's what I'm looking for. Because that's what's most important.
Mm.
All right, guys, you ready? All right, let's go. Boom. That's how every lesson that I would do, that's how I address it. Okay, we're gonna do this. And it was always teamwork, communication, being respectful, being responsible, being hardworking, having a strong mind, resilience. That's what I would teach. Yeah, I'm teaching math and English and all this stuff, but that's not what I'm really doing. I'm teaching all these other skills and math and English. I'm just using that as a way to teach you how to be respectful. That was my approach.
That's
And that's
amazing.
how, yeah, and that's how my classroom management, I had no problems because and you know, you start teaching these kids these skills, they start behaving way better. You have a community now, like kids are looking out for each other. As an administrator, I could tell who has good classroom community and just by the way that students react to me. I'll give you an example. If I see a student and something's happened in the yard, and I'll say, "Hey, you're out of your area. Go to another area. This is your area." He's like, "Oh, whoa, no, Mr. Vergara. Miss So and So said that we can't do that. We have to play in this area." In my mind, I'm like, "Okay, that's good. The teacher has more control than me." The kid is more concerned about, "Oh, no, no, I don't want to offend Miss So and So, my teacher. We could offend you, but we can't offend the teacher. We can't go against her rules." That's how I know, like, okay, that teacher right there, great classroom management, great classroom community. They work together. They know what the rules are, and I don't even have to. I don't have to do anything with that. I can say, "I'm gonna tell your teacher," and they're like, "Oh no, don't tell my teacher." So that's,
That's
I can
great.
tell, like, who has a good class, who has good control of their classroom, when the student is afraid of, or not afraid of, the student is like more concerned about what their teacher thinks than what I think as the assistant principal. And that's how I could tell, like,
Mm,
you have, that teacher has good control.
that's
That's what I'm
awesome.
looking for.
Yeah,
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 but it's all about those skills. It's all about those skills, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I'm always in the gym, so it's hard for me to really see the teachers do their thing. And but you have this opportunity to go from class to class and get a sense of how they handle it. Do you find a lot of teachers are like you? 30% of them are like you. 10% of them have that mindset that
I yeah, like, that's a tough call. I feel like not many teachers understand that they should be teaching positive character. I feel like there's a small percentage of people that do that. I feel like they're more focused, like you were saying earlier, about, like, let's go, let's teach the curriculum,
yeah,
we got
yeah.
to get through this
Quick,
chapter, we got to
quick
get through these.
fixes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if I did a lot of self development myself. Like, I read tons of books about self-help books, like just a ton of books. And I was like, man, all of this knowledge right here, if I could just take this knowledge and put it in the classroom, and teach these kids who probably never been taught these skills before, and they're probably never going to read these books, but I could teach them these skills. I could do it. That's what I wanted to do. And I don't know if teachers think like that so much, or a lot of teachers I've seen, maybe a very small percentage of people think like that. And you see on social media, teachers complain about, like, I don't have time to teach social emotional learning. I don't have time to teach positive character. This is the parent's job. This is not my job. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a social worker. I can't do that. And that's where I feel like maybe that's not, I don't know how to address that. Like, maybe teaching's not for them. I don't know how to address that part.
Uh, I think that I think they don't see down the road what the benefits are. Just hey, focus on your work. Let's go. Works on the short term, and
Yes.
after the end of the year, there's someone else's problem, right?
Hmm.
Whereas as a PE teacher and all those clusters, art, science, we're blessed to have them for 4, 5, sometimes 6 years. So
Oh
I can
yeah.
say this class is a disaster. I'm not even going to waste my breath. Well, that same disaster class I'm going to be dealing with for the next year and the following year.
Hmm.
And so if I don't fix this now, it's going to be a big problem. And I've
Yeah.
learned that developing the kid's character makes them better kids. And it doesn't really take as long as one would think, as long as you're consistent with it. And that's the biggest
Yes.
thing is be consistent with all of your children and then be willing to put in the work. Like I had a student who was very disruptive, throwing the water bottle onto the gym floor, doing a lot of disrespectful things and just wasn't focused, didn't even care. And this was happening a couple weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And he's only in second grade. And if I don't fix
Yeah.
this, I'm going to be dealing with it third, fourth. So again, I have to do my work, get to know this kid. And I saw him in the at recess pretending to do taekwondo. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you're really good. Like, who's teaching you this? Oh, my cousin. Your cousin's is a Taekwondo instructor? No, no, we just play around. I'm like, you seem to be into it. Would you ever really want to learn Taekwondo? You can earn your belts and everything. And he just lit up. I'm like, listen, I can talk to your dad. My daughter goes
Yeah.
to this Taekwondo place. It's absolutely amazing. You would speak to my dad? I'm like, yeah, of course. So as I'm figuring this out, I overhear him speaking to another second grader. I might do Taekwondo. I just spoke to Coach Gelardi. He's thinking about talking to my dad. So of course I'm going to follow up. I spoke to the father and I said, listen, I don't know if you know this, but your son seems to be interested in Taekwondo. Oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, there's a place in the neighborhood. I can get you a free trial. The
Yeah.
instructor is absolutely amazing. He has unbelievable classroom management and character building skills. I think it'd be great for your son. We should make this happen. And then, sure enough, the father books the trial. I'm like, tell me the time and day. I go there with him and this child, and I get to see him do his thing.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
what's great about that is what I'm hoping for is for the kid to want to continue to do it, hope to earn their first belt, and hopefully for me to see him earn that belt. But even just knowing the kid knowing that I had something to do with something that could help him outside of school, he always comes up to me and says, Coach, I'm going to be good today. I'm going to focus. I'm going to be good today. And
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing. And it takes work because that's one kid, and you had to do all of those phone calls, all of those setting up. But now he's a good kid, focused at second grade, and I'm hoping that will continue from years and years to come. This teaching at the elementary level, what I love about elementary levels is like this is where the good habits are developed.
Yeah.
Bullying, teasing, making fun of others start to develop in third, fourth, and fifth grade, and then by middle school, it blows up.
Mm-hmm.
So when I start seeing bully like behavior, I do whatever I can to annihilate that and tell them that
That's
this
good.
is not the way to be. You have to be good to others at all times. I'll give you numerous examples of why I'm so successful by being kind to others. And
Mm-hmm.
I try my best, and I take a lot of pride in this, that they leave good kids. And they know that if they get made fun of, usually it's because those kids weren't educated on how to make friends properly, and they think making fun of friends is a quick way to making fun of people is a quick way of making a friend. But
Yeah.
they're confused because what they're supposed to do is use whatever talent they have, even if it's being funny, is to make people laugh and make people happy and make people better. And if they're doing the opposite, they're
Yeah.
confused, and so never let them hurt you. It's their own issue.
Yeah.
And if
That's good
you
stuff.
you ingrain that in them, you hope that they become part of your family. So when they go out to a middle school, they kind of band together and like, you can't make fun of my buddy over here. He went to my school. We don't do that. We don't do that
Yeah.
here. You know?
That's good. That's really good. So I have a question.
Yeah.
I always end my podcast with tips for new educators. When it comes you know, 3 tips for new educators. Can you give me 3 tips for any new educator coming up, whether it's a P teacher or just any educator, that you could give them so they could take along the way and become a successful teacher?
Yes. I think I like tip one is kind of like what we spoke about before, is that any feedback you get from anyone, always take it professionally and never take it personally. The moment you take some feedback personally, you're actually hindering your own growth. Be
Yeah.
open minded, learn from others. You may not agree with it, but learn from them and then build upon. Number two is particularly if you're new, you have to find that person that could mentor you. And if you weren't mentored well initially, you still have time to find that person that could be your go to person who you can entrust when you have any of those issues. You have that other teacher you can go to.
Yeah.
Is very, very important. And then focus on what you can control. I remember being new, trying to get into a school district. I was so concerned about other teachers that might be going for that position. I was so concerned about what the principal thought about me. I was so concerned about if this was going to help me keep my job. And a lot of those things I couldn't control. The only
Yeah.
thing you can control is your own personal development. You grow, you continue to grow, things will get better. You have a toxic coworker, level up. They will either have to meet you there or they won't. But
Leave them behind.
don't go down, right? You have a difficult principle, get better. Other doors
Hmm.
will open. So focus on what you can control. And I'm going to add that little tiny fourth tip that really got me to the next level. Be willing as a teacher to videotape your lessons. Um, I was mentoring my wife. She became a PE teacher and she was having some issues in class. And I would try to tell her, well, try this, try that, try this. And she's like, nothing's working. I've tried everything you said, it's not working. I'm like, all right, I'll film myself doing this so that you can maybe better get a better sense of what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I videotaped my lesson. There were about 60 kids in the gym because it was a double class. And now the lesson's over. I thought it went perfectly. I'm like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to show my wife. This is going to be great. And as I'm sitting down with my wife going over the lesson, I noticed that there were 3 or 4 students in front of my camera that were doing everything I said from the beginning of the lesson to the end. And not one time did I go up to them. Did I say anything? It's as if they weren't even there.
Uh,
I was just blown away. And I realized I have to, when I'm going over a skill, go over to this part of the gymnasium and help out every kid. Then stop, go over something else, and go over to this side. Stop, go over here. And then this
yeah.
time, in every lesson, it will allow me an opportunity to spend a moment or two with each child, regardless if there's one or 100. And that
Yeah.
was only one part of my teaching that I was able to fix because I videotaped myself. And it's like little things like that that you just get better and better and better. And you reach a level where teaching is super fun. You're never really going to get burnt out because you're going to be so good that there's going to be neighboring universities near you that are going to want you to mentor them. And so then you're going to have new teachers coming in, teaching your kids and helping, and it just becomes fun.
Well, Coach Girardi, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I gained a lot just listening to you. I greatly appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
I appreciate you having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope there's a lot of teachers like you. And you need to continue this podcast because I think it's going to be really
Absolutely.
helpful. And
Yeah.
I like your look. You got to get the beard, but
I got the same look.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much.